Hi, Prithvi. Happy to see you
Nam-
again.
Namaskaram, namaskaram. How are you?
Fine, fine. So last time when we spoke, you were getting ready to go to Jordan,
Yeah.
and in the months following that, I believe you gone through some unexpected situations. Like Jordan is one of them, and then you got like COVID and all that. So could you like briefly tell us like how were these experiences for you?
So it wasn't a situation that was exclusive to me. I think,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
a lot of
world was going, yeah, the whole world was going through this. And yeah, I had got back from Jordan last year after being stuck there for 3 months following the shoot of RDG with them. And then when
yeah,
I got back, the whole industry was in a standstill. And a couple of months into me getting back, there was active discussions on about how do we restart the industry? How can
yeah,
we start, making movies again? And in fact, Cold Case was the first script that I okayed when
mm,
I restarted work.
yeah,
Because we were very particular that whatever we do back then and even now, it'll have to be films that can be made under very strict COVID protocols and with regulations in place.
yeah,
Uh, Cold Case, we believed, was one such film that we could execute with all those protocols in place. And Cold Case
mm,
was, in fact, the first film that me and everybody else who were involved with Cold Case, it was the first film that went on floors for all of us, with these protocols in place. So it was very new because before that, we have never seen a film set where people were all masked up with visors and we were socially distancing and, there were sanitizer stations all through the set. So that way it was very new. And
yeah.
I guess we were lucky that the shoot went on so smooth and there were no stoppages. And yeah, it was in fact was quite an efficient shoot.
So I want to ask you, like, when you got back, right? You're doing like, one project after the other. So, like, all these factors that you experienced, and also the general uncertainty that we are experiencing right now. Do these factors compel you to do like more films in a very short amount of time? And do you pick projects in such a way?
Well, it's not about deliberately doing more films. What has been
Yeah,
happening in general all over
yeah,
Malayalam and in fact other industries too, is that
yeah,
we understand that right now we are incapable of pulling off these giant films. Let's say, for
yeah.
example, an Emburan. We really can't be going on floors with an Emburan right now because
Right, right.
it is impossible to shoot that film under restricted circumstances. So what has then happened is all producers, directors, writers, actors, technicians, all of us started thinking about smaller contained films.
Mm,
When I say smaller films, I do not necessarily mean the canvas being smaller. I mean films
yeah,
that can be carried out with limited number of people and in contained environments. So when you start thinking on those lines, um, what ends up happening is that the number of days of shoot for films becomes less.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
we really can't be now doing a Lucifer where you're shooting across uh, 6 states and 3 countries, and it's like spread across 150 days. It's impossible to do now. So we
yeah,
all started migrating towards smaller films, and when you
mm,
start migrating towards smaller films, obviously the volume of work will go up because
yeah,
as an actor, as somebody who used to do 2 to 3 films a year, now you're finishing a film in 25-30 days. So
yeah,
yeah, so you suddenly end up saying, okay, you do a film, you take a break, and then you say, okay, this is a script that I like, I'll start doing this now.
yeah,
Before you know, you've already done 5 films. So yeah,
yeah,
that way I guess the number of films does go up. But
mm,
thanks to thanks to platforms like Amazon, we still have a venue where our work can be exhibited.
yeah,
We only had a very short time in between where theaters were open, that
yeah.
too to limited capacity in Kerala. So if
Mm.
not for digital platforms like Amazon Prime Video, I think the Malayalam industry in particular would have
Yeah.
really struggled.
And Cold Case is, I think yesterday in your Insta live, you said that it is more of a plot centric thriller and not so
Yeah,
much of a character driven.
yeah.
So when you do films like this, like no, and you have done plenty of thrillers. So as an actor, when you approach, usually these investigative thrillers, people tend to think that it could be the same as something that you did before. As an actor, when you approach like these subjects, how do you try to avoid like consciously like repetitiveness or that the
See,
previous elements? Mm.
I think the idea behind it is to not be too complex in your analysis. Just
Yeah,
keep it
yeah,
simple. You read
yeah,
a script. Do you feel like
yeah,
you want to see this film? Do you feel like, oh man, this is something I'd like to see on screen? The
yeah,
the your process should end there. That's it. Then you
yeah,
like the script, you do it. Yeah, I know. I understand that I've been probably when you compare me with other actors of my age, I've probably done many more cop films and many more thriller films than the rest of them have. But I strongly believe Cold Case, even you know, even with me having done so many thrillers and cop films, Cold Case still excited me. When I read the script, in fact, the first thing I wanted to do was to produce a film, which producers did not let me. But yeah, so I acted in it. It is very much a plot-driven film. It is not a character-driven film at all. But I've always maintained that when I read a script, to me, what I do in the film is secondary. You know, my primary question is this a film that I would want to see? And Cold Case is definitely a film that I felt like I want to see.
Yeah. And there is a dialogue in the trailer about logic. So I want to ask you, like, as an actor, director, and a producer, do you prefer your films to be, 100% logically accurate? Or because for me as a viewer, it's all about the overall experience, right? We can't really nitpick like each and every detail, right? How is it for you? Like, same.
See again, you do a horror film like Ezra. You obviously can't have everything logical, you know. I mean, that's the whole idea behind a horror film, that you try and make a film on something that is not scientifically explicable. In Cold Case, what is very interesting is there are two tracks in the film. So one track is that of a police investigation. Now, if you're speaking about a police investigation, yes, as an actor, writer, filmmaker, I want a police investigation to be logically foolproof. I don't want us to take the audience for granted. You know, you're showing them a police investigation, explain to them how and where and, you know, when did you reach at each one of your inferences. It is very important. Now, the other track in Cold Case is all about paranormal activities and supernatural elements. Those are inexplicable. So there you suddenly switch to a film being more atmospheric. You know, you switch to a film being, setting up things that logic cannot explain, but as a viewer, you take them to that place and make them believe that, you know, this is actually happening. So it is not a black and white situation. It depends on what kind of film and what kind of scenes within a film are you attempting to film.
Yeah, because creatively, I think you can take a lot of liberties with, that track, right? Like when it comes to horror or science fiction.
Correct. And I have to say, the police investigation in Cold Case is very well researched. I mean, full credit to Srinath and Tanu. There is a lot of forensic inferences, a lot of science-based investigative, scenes, and all of them have been very thoroughly researched in conjunction with speaking to a lot of police officers, forensic officers. And I would like to think that, the police investigation track in Cold Case is pretty well backed by science.
Yeah. Cool. Cold Case is your first film for OTT, direct OTT release. Like, you're one of the few people who talked about, the coexistence of OTT platforms and theaters. Have you thought of the possibility of, doing in the future, alternatively, one film for OTT and one film for the big screen, something like that?
So it can never really be a design in place that, okay, I do one film for theaters, now let me choose another script after this to do for OTT. I believe down the line, it is going to be entirely based on a script, right? So in one way, when you choose a script, sometimes that story or that screenplay, you end up realizing is best made if it is not subject to community viewing. So when you subject a piece of cinema to community viewing, the whole schematics of it changes, right? So when 1,000 people sit together, they have actually traveled from their homes to a film theater, and they have actually set aside 3 hours for the entire process. We need to come watch this film, have some fun, and leave, go back home. Then the whole schematics change. They're watching it in a different mental space, as opposed to at the end of a day, after having finished all your work, you sit back in your couch with a tub of popcorn, put your feet up, and switch on your TV or your laptop or your iPad, and you watch that in your own private space at a time of your choosing. The whole mentality is different. So I believe creatively also it differs. Some scripts will lend themselves better to big screen theatrical viewing and community viewing experiences. Some scripts will lend themselves better to this very intimate relationship between the viewer and the screen. So in the future, I think as actors, as technicians, as producers, it is up to you to be able to spot that, okay, this is going to make a better OTT film than a theatrical film. This one definitely has to be a theatrical film. So it is up to you to make that choice. And that coexistence, I think, will create a really exciting atmosphere all through. Not just financially for the industry, but I think also creatively for the artists and technicians.
Yeah. How was it working with Girish Gangadharan and Joman? Because there was an initial confusion about like who actually like shot or like the first person
Yeah.
and the second person. So how was that like?
So
Because
yeah. So Jomon was supposed to shoot the film, but
yeah.
unfortunately, I got diagnosed with COVID. I was COVID positive back then, and then
Yeah.
suddenly my dates obviously had to be pushed. So what
Mm.
happened was then Jomon ended up having to stick to his prior commitment of this Rohit Shetty film called Circus with Ranveer
Oh,
in it.
okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
so Jomon started Cold Case. He shot a bit of the film, but then
Mm.
he had to leave. Then Girish
Yeah.
came in. But both these guys I know for a long time now. So the
Yeah.
first film I did with Jomon was Ayalam Nyanam Tamil, and Girish was
Ah.
his assistant. So Girish was his
Yeah.
assistant on that film. So I
Mm.
know them from back then, and yeah, both of them are great. Yeah, both of them are some of the best we have. In fact, I think they could both easily be listed as the finest in the country right now, among
Exactly.
the finest in the country right now. Yeah.
Doing a light-hearted subject. I mean, you directing something like that, it's exciting, right? At this, given this scenario, is this that something that's been on your mind for a long time, or is this just out of the blue that you?
So what has been on my mind for a while is that I think the industry in general is
Yeah.
missing happy films. I think Malayalam cinema has made this marked shift towards
Yeah.
dark
Yeah.
films and investigative thrillers and murder mysteries and really dark satires and all that. So I think the industry in general, we have been missing happy films quite badly. That has been on my
Yes.
mind for a while.
Mm.
Which is when a few months back I happened to listen to the script and I really enjoyed it. I think it was I really enjoyed listening to the script, and then
Mm.
the moment I listened to it, I thought this could be a really nice shake up for me as a filmmaker,
Yeah.
because I know the kind of design and conception that a Lucifer or an Emperor will need. And this is
Mm.
diametrically opposite to that. So I thought it will be it's a good shake up for me as a filmmaker to sort of like break down all my set filmmaking grammar
Yeah.
and everything. It'll be a good exercise for me also.
Mm.
Then I just casually narrated the whole thing to Lalit, and I think he also really enjoyed it. He laughed a lot, and so he said we have to do this. Let's do this. So that's how
Yeah.
it went. Yeah, it became a project.
Do you miss directing, or like I want to ask you, like, do you wish you could make something every year, because that would be very nice.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not somebody who's it's not that I'm like I have to direct or else it's not like that. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I was happy to sit back and wait for things to open up, and eventually the circumstances letting us get on with Empuran. I was happy to wait. I'm in no hurry at all. But
Yeah.
then I just happened to hear this script, and this thought just came in my mind. Maybe I should do it. Maybe it's going to be a great change for me. I should do it. So that
Yeah.
thought just came, and then it wouldn't go. So then
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, okay.
Last time we also spoke about the possibilities of 3D filmmaking, and I think you already shot for some portions of Barroz, and
Yes, I
at
did.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. So was it shot in 3D, or like I think that it was shot in 3D, right? And
Barroz is shot in what is the absolute modern 3D technology right now available in the world.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you already completed your portions, or
No. So of course not.
So also there is another film that virtual production movie, right? What is the status, and do you see more possibilities of virtual production filmmaking in Malayalam cinema?
Not just Malayalam cinema. I think that is definitely a big part of the future as far as filmmaking is concerned. In the West, it is now caught on well and truly.
Yeah.
India is just beginning to discover and come to terms with the technology. Not so much the technology, but the cost of the infrastructure. It is not something that is very cheap. At least as we speak today, it is very expensive. That's a film that I'm looking forward to. We have done a few test shoots, and we are confident that we will be able to pull it off. But then again, I do not think it is something, the sheer infrastructure, the size of the project, I do not think it is something that we can pull off given the circumstances that we are in currently.
All right. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you. Yeah.